intentions are to go over this agenda and help where I can. I don't have any distractions at the moment, which is a shocking thing. So it's good. Yeah, I'll pass it over to you, Chewy.
Thank you, Nate. I'm sorry. Is this temperature check?
Just intentions, distractions to kick us off and just get us started.
Okay, sure. Well, as a general intention, just keep getting involved with the conversation. I feel that it has brought us to like a place where, I mean, at least personally, I didn't feel that it was gonna be. I didn't think that this like being like standing in where we are right now was gonna be like sort of like easing like the situation. But I do feel that it's taking us to like a really good place. Major praise to Bear, Rex, and Acid Laser because it's just I feel that they're taking this like very excitedly and that really is just like motivating to see. So yeah, I'm excited about everything that they're working on and how everything is unfolding. And also major praise to Septi and Ivy for their offboarding document. And I'll pass it to Griff.
GM. Oh, sorry. What's the prompt?
Just intentions, distractions, just to have everyone have a little say before we get started.
My intentions are just to hang out, watch the transformation process, and enjoy and be around to see how things transition. And distractions, I'll try to do some random giveth stuff, old multi-sigs, and figuring out. So I'll just be doing that in the background while listening. I'll throw it over to Juan.
Thanks, Griff. My distraction is that I don't know why the street is very loud today, and there's a lot of noise where I am. But my intention is to sync with you guys. I think I've been a little bit far from this conversation, and yeah, today I find it a perfect day to get up to date. And yeah, I'll pass it to Durgadas.
Hi, yeah, I haven't been in a stewards meeting in a while, and I saw the transformational thing going on there, so I just wanted to see what was going on. So that's my intention. My distraction is doing website stuff for Gravity for 40 Acres now, and my regular job. So I'll pass it to whoever hasn't gone. Sorry, I'm a little late, so I don't know.
No problem. I'll swing it over to Rex.
Hello. Yes, I was having trouble unmuting. Yeah, so intentions. Well, I've done some progress on the credentials management, so I've come to just give an overview of what I've been doing and can agree on the next steps and how we can take this forward in the most seamless way possible. Kind of listening to what everybody else has been doing, because it is a very positive energy that we're moving forward, and we're slowly picking up pace. So I am excited about developments that will happen this week and following, and yes, and that's pretty much it. Enki, how about you?
Cool, thanks. Well, intentions, just moving this forward. You see, we have a very nice agenda today with some nice topics in there. Distractions, well, it is my birthday today, and so I'm just planning some stuff for the rest of the day and chatting with some friends. I'll pass it over to Libby.
Okay, so let's go, everybody. Open your mics. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Auntie.
That was
Thanks,
chaotic
everybody.
awesome.
Auntie.
Congrats, Auntie. Hope you have a lovely day. And
Thank you.
yeah, my intentions is to see if anyone has feedback for this TC, the stewards lessons board. And yeah, and just hear the other updates, and I have no distractions.
There, I don't think you've gone yet, right?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, really similar. Just to go through all the progress that has been made in kind of like all of these urgent topics that has been discussed in the past. And yeah, I don't have distractions either. I think we are building that momentum, that excitement, and that just feels great. So I'll pass it to Gideon.
Thanks, Bear. Yeah, no real distractions right now, aside from the fact I got the timing wrong. So there's that little detail. But other than that, my intentions, yeah, just like keep on moving. Like I feel like we've got a lot of boxes open. You know, like it's like you get a lot of deliveries in the mail, and like rather than processing them one at a time, you open up each box all at the same time. It feels like we've got a lot of open boxes. So like it'll be good to just start closing. You know, packaging up, like processing some of these packages one by one. I think that'll feel good. I don't know. I came in a little bit late, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Nate, to hand it, or Tam.
Tam and
Mitch
Griff
hasn't
have
gone
yet
yet.
to go. Mitch, yeah, too. You want to take it, Mitch?
Sure, yeah. My intentions are just to catch up on the latest with this transformation strategy and mostly listen. Distractions, I am trying to figure out how to update our praise categories and hitting lots of problems with Python and things out of my skill level. And I'll pass it to Tam.
Yeah, and Griff, you did go, right? I think I'm the last one. Did anyone else not have a chance?
I don't think Griff went, but
Yeah,
No, I
Griff.
went.
oh, you didn't. Okay, apologies.
So I guess my intention is, you know, I just want to say to a little bit of what, you know, second to what Chewy said in the very beginning, you know, that I think that there's like a lot of, I don't know, just like people really devoting a lot of their effort to this. And I see that the cohesion is coming together, and that I think there's a really strong team who's starting to form around sort of how we can move things forward. And that's really nice to see. And it seems like there's a lot of momentum. There have been like several really, really important, really good conversations, and it feels like things are falling into place, and that we're starting to see some of the light through the end of the tunnel. And I think that this is what these sessions are exactly for. So, and then distractions. You know, I'm moving in now like 1 week, so there's like a million things in the back of my mind that are going through my mind, and I'm trying to quiet down. But I'd say other than that, I'm fully present. And Nate, is it you or Gideon or who should facilitate this call today? Nate, I think you're sharing screen. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can facilitate it. So we're going to continue with our agenda today, kind of catching up on the tasks that we set out to accomplish last week that we all got to start on. So we're going to go with a quick round of quick updates and advice process for anybody who has been working on their area. So I will start it off with the sunsetting of the working groups.
Currently, we have 3 working groups that are in the process of sunsetting that will be phased out, which is the Communitas working group, the Transparency working group, and the SoftGov working group. Within the Transparency working group, we have Zepti, who delivered the, the offboarding checklist for working groups. He went through and illustrated a lot of the learnings that they've had within this document. Mainly being stewards are not police who should impose transparency, but provide guidance. A goal of transparency is not only to gather relevant information around decisions being made, but also making it accessible for members to foster mutual monitoring. The financial aspects of the current multi-sig for the transparency multi-sig, these will be going towards prior obligations for the MVP for the advanced page, the augmented bonding curve advanced page. Any remaining funds will be sent to the SAMPO working group. Also, the tasks and functions that Zepti listed here with people who are actually taking these functions on are in bold. And so it's a really good job of just kind of setting the template for how to do this. Of course, these will all be, the 3 working groups that I mentioned will be mentioned within the forum as being sunsetted. So with that being said, we also have our Communitas, which is currently in the works as well. The Communitas working group multi-sig still holds funds as of today, and it holds around 11,500 Rapdex die and has past obligations of around 2,300. The remaining funds will be sent to SAMPO working group multi-sig in accordance with the proposal that was submitted for that. The big thing here is with the working groups that are sunsetting, if the proposal that was made by the community, if these functions are being transferred over to the new core unit during this transition process, we will send those funds towards the SAMPO working group, which will be our central multi-sig that we will allocate funds towards the transitioning. So right now, both Transparency and Communitas are both going to send all of the funds that are associated with their multi-sigs to the SAMPO working group multi-sig to allocate for these functions according to the community vote. Communitas, I mean comms, I know that they may have different, or other working groups may have different obligations and may choose to send that back to the common pool, which is completely fine. And we leave this up to the working group stewards to make that decision. As far as the other working groups that are sunsetting, these are in the process and will happen at different times. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions or obstacles, this is a good place to ask questions about the sunsetting of these working groups, and so we can keep moving forward with it. Outside of that, yeah.
One thing, I also, Nate and I started our conversation this week around sunsetting the stewards working group and making sure that the sort of coordination layers and servant leadership layers are, these responsibilities are passed on well. But we'll start putting together sort of a document and a transition or a sunset plan for our stewards as well.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's not a bad idea if we can open up and ask if anyone has questions now about any of this that you've just shared.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Or any comments to share?
Sure. I wanted to say, like, this process I think has been very, very productive, and it's very interesting to kind of read what all the working groups on the internet are coming to. One concern that I do have, however, is I have been going through the TEC Google Drive, and it's basically empty. Now, this is something I will mention later on, but I think that it would be useful for the working groups to kind of collect all of the resources they've created that maybe some are stored in Zepti's personal. I'm just talking transparency, and I'm sure it's the same, and it might be an even bigger problem for high volume of documents for other working groups. But say transparency, I think Zepti holds some documents, Ivy holds some documents in her accounts, etc., and those that we will lose access to those. unless we have some sort of process to just basically give them a shared folder, allow them to dump all of these, allow them to put all of the files just on that folder so that we can kind of keep it and not lose all of that knowledge.
I'm trying to find it now, but DDEN last year did a whole, he organized all of the documents from all working groups. We have, it's like a huge list of resources. I'm trying to find it now.
So I
If
also
it was last year, though, it's
Yeah.
probably not updated to all of the stuff that the working groups have been up to.
I was going to say that I did create this a while ago, but we never did maintain it, and so I do think it can still be utilized, and it could be a really good central place where we can store these documents. But that is really up to you, all of you. I don't think we got much use out of it, so it's one of those things. If it's not going to be used, let's figure out something that will be used.
Do we have a like a shared, like a TEC Google account where we can have all of the docs if we want?
So just to answer that question, yes, and so Bear and I took the initiative of doing one, and we've started to collect the documents for the new kind of core group, let's call it, whatever that name is, so that there is a shared folder for that, but there isn't one for the working groups. But I'm very happy to kind of make those and for you guys to pass on the message so that we can start collecting this data.
Okay, maybe it's not a bad checklist or check to add into the checklist for the sunsetting document, and that the sort of transfer of documents into the shared repository can be the action that the steward or the contributors take as part of the phasing out of the working group. At least that handles the working
I think
groups.
that's a really good idea.
Yeah. And then other working groups, I guess we can handle that in a separate track.
Yeah, and if we can get some like TEC account, it might be just a good idea going forward that like if you can do your own Google Docs stuff, whatever you want, but like if it's something that is being considered by the TEC, that you need to keep a copy there so that we're not having to like constantly update links and things like that, because that it always works for the first couple months, but then over time like people forget, and so I think if we just got into the habit of just like making sure that there's always a copy of whatever it is we want other people to see in that drive, that would be, I think, just a good practice.
Right. Did anybody else have any thoughts on the working group sunsetting? Any questions, any concerns, any plans, or requests for help? Now's a good time to do that.
Yeah. Do we have like a timeline or like a deadline for finishing the sunsetting process, or is it more like in accordance to each working group, or how would that look?
We discussed it. It's best for the accordance of each working group. There are certain things that, challenging things like communications. They have a lot of things to organize, and perhaps it'll take a little bit longer than, say, SoftGov will or stewards will. And so leaving it up to the working groups to decide. But this also brings up a larger question of things like, the rewards working group, which everyone is pretty satisfied with in terms of, Mitch, I know you've got a pretty solid train running there. Whether these functions that are being provided within the rewards working group can be merged into the core unit. Again, is there a benefit to that, or is there a benefit to keeping it separate? I think these are all legitimate questions that we could figure out, or would be good to get insight on.
One other just quick update.
Go ahead.
Do you want me? Okay. This will be quick. So Sampo, what I'm thinking right now is that we'll just fold Sampo up, and then have that become that the multi-sig there would be the multi-sig that would then form. I mean, just to be clear about this, I think what Nate is saying is that would be the multi-sig that would then hold this core ops or common ops team. So today I'm hoping to get out just a pretty simple doc that just outlines, like, takes some of the stuff that we were talking about over the last couple of weeks and puts it together in just a quick proposal. It's like, here's what this team would do, here's how it's structured, and then put that out today or maybe tomorrow morning for feedback, and hopefully we can talk about this on Thursday.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to add was it's sort of, you know, I don't think everything has to be figured out immediately, but we're trending in a direction, right? So I don't think we need to have these sort of like force any working group to do anything, and just see what naturally emerges in terms of our organizational structure. As working groups are electing, or, you know, some of us are seeing, we don't need a whole entire working group around this anymore. There's two key functions that this working group provides, and those can be absorbed by this like one team who's really going to be focused on that, rather than having weekly meetings and an agenda and a channel and you know, and trying to build momentum around an entire working group that really just needs to do two things. So I think it's really up to each of us to understand what services our working group provides to the TEC, and does that need to be a working group, or is that something that can be one, you know, the responsibility of one individual? And then we could figure out from there what the final structure will look like. I think it's important for us to allow there to be emergence and sort of this organic transition to our new structure as well. Having a goal in mind, but not sort of like rigidly forcing everyone to it, but just like letting us all figure out how we get there together.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. With that being said, we will move on from this because these are supposed to be just quick updates. So I'm going to give this to Rex over to just give you an overview and update on the credentials management path. So pass it over to you, Rex.
Okay, cool. I'll try and share the screen if half of the time it doesn't. I think it has. Cool. Because I made a Kanban board basically to try and cover everything that I've been doing and I've been doing and he's been doing over the last week on this, because I just think it's a bit cleaner. So just to say, Seppi handed over the passwords for Google and Twitter, and all of the others are either roles or their account recovery is via the Google, so didn't pass those, didn't need to pass those on, and I will need to go through and reset the passwords for all of the accounts you see on the left, and there might be more that I'm not too sure about yet. So that's this one. I've been looking at suitable password managers because, well, just to see what would be best for us to scale, and I wrote a little bit on it if you'd like to read on the different alternatives, but I, in essence, agree with Septi in the way he did it. It's gonna be it's either gonna be very expensive to use an open source organizational one, or the whole burden of configuration is going to lie on me. So if we self-host one of these organization password managers and something goes wrong, well, then I do something wrong. So I set one of the if I set up, like, I don't know, I forget to update the SSL certificate, something as stupid as that immediately put us in a vulnerable position. So that's probably not something that we'd want to do.
I'm also available for that sort of thing. So I have a lot of experience at doing precisely this, and I'm currently in the middle of doing this for 2 more clients actively at the moment. So, yeah, it's not, you don't have to be by yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd have to consider that one, but ultimately, over the last week, I've just been using the same non-open source individual password manager that Zipty was using. I just made a new account on it, and that's been it. But we can take that async and see whether to continue with Dashlane or to go on and actually move to Bitwarden on a Passport. Which
that was my recommendation, and I've used the others.
Ideologically, I was like immediately going to that because it's open source. It's going to be safer, and from a like if configured properly, it's safer. But I wanted to just cover the big document. So that we can take async just so we can talk about other stuff. I have gone through all of the credentials in the TC that I've been able to, seeing what processes were up in place, and I found some of the vulnerabilities which I've written here. So the passwords were all transferred to me via plain text on Discord. So those need to be changed. There hasn't really been a method for password storage, as in only Twitter and Google have been stored. Everything else is just dispersed, and we have no idea, no control about it. There are a number of individuals who are not playing an active part in the commons, yet hold a number of their credentials, and these aren't. It's not like they're not value aligned. It's just that if any one person has a hack or any of those, you can immediately, I don't know, have a very negative outcome. Say, if any of the admins of the Discord happen to suffer a breach, the Discord is completely open to just being deleted. So, is everybody that's an admin really? Does anybody or everybody that's an admin need access to that delete button? Probably not. So we need to have a pruning process to revoke inactive individuals to reduce this level of roles, to reduce the attack surface, and to include some of the accounts which have up until this point just not been covered by our credentials management. So I've set out some steps, which would be the process to go through: selecting the password manager, creating a process for pruning inactive members, and then going through each of the accounts and revoking access, returning access to those individuals that still need it. And probably, if we're going to have anything more complex, is rather than keeping the credentials management document in a spreadsheet like we're doing, probably have it as a 2-table database, because it would just be much easier to work with. Now, there's any questions?
I guess I was going to ask you, do you have any questions or anything like the advice process that you need from anyone here?
Okay.
As you move forward.
So I have a question as to what level of what's the level of initiative I can take here, because we're talking about something pretty sensitive. So I wanted to get a feel for the community and get some agreement as to whether it's okay. I'm going to start the proper process would have been to revoke everybody's access to every account immediately as I got it. I haven't done that because it was going to harm operations and it wasn't agreed upon. But so is everybody okay with me just going through, contacting the individuals and saying, right, I'm going to revoke access to this, and I'm going to give you access via a more limited method, and is everybody okay with me kind of taking the initiative in doing that rather than having to agree what I'm going to do with these platforms one by one?
I have some thoughts to share. They've been quite a long period since we really, I would say, reviewed our credentials and who has access to it. And I'm sure there probably be people who have exited the community or are really focused on other projects now who still have access. So I think if we just do sort of an inventory, it'll also, you can work with, some people in this room to try to help, understand, or like even you, I think, will know who's active and who's not active. And and I think ultimately, as long as we sort of publish, are transparent about who will and won't have access, and then sort of give people a chance to react to that. I'd say go ahead.
So in the document, so Septi provided a document that was fresh as of early September, so it's relatively recent as to everybody that has access. You can see the accounts and so on, but it's a bit difficult to read that way. But we can see that some people here are not really in the community anymore. So some of these people are pre me joining, so it's so I don't even know what that was, right?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like Craig is a great example here. He's still a very trusted, trusted but not so active member of the TEC. He still shows up in conferences and will sort of advocate for TEC. But I don't know that he still needs access to the medium, for example. So I think it's a nice moment for us to just be like, okay, if we're starting from scratch, how would we design this? And then look at who needs access to what, and maybe make that as a starting point.
So as for next steps, so if I just go back to the board, I will move this to clarity there. So very similar, but I just did it in Notion because it's what I'm most comfortable in. So we've got one of them is in progress of identifying and create a process of pruning inactive members. So that's kind of been NT, and NT has already done some work in that. I highly appreciated, and I've only changed the password to Google and Twitter because they're the two I have. I have no one passed to me, but via this insecure way, and they needed changing with immediacy. So those two I have changed. I'm just waiting on Acid Laser to respond so I can give him access to the Twitter account, and just to make sure that he's still got access to that. Shared it via Dashlane as per previous, as just like Septi did it, but that's why I haven't moved it to review, and that's pretty much it. So I will review this with you, on the password manager, seeing if it's a good idea to self-host this. But otherwise, we're going to kind of create this process, just identify who doesn't need access, and then start going through this backlog of accounts, basically just changing the password, sticking it in the password manager, and giving access to only those who need it. And this will be done before this, basically. So everybody is aware and can, basically just ping us before we remove their access and don't give anything back. So yes. Any other questions? You all okay with this?
Could you add that link to the transition document, agenda document?
So I'll stick it on the chat. I'm not sure.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. Thank you.
There we go. So you can pay
and
for it.
Really amazing job, Rex. Really awesome. Thank you for really delving into this and getting detailed down. So thank you.
No worries at all.
So we're going to continue on with our updates. Right now, I think we're going to pass it over to Inti, who's going to go over some of our tech support issues, and I'll pass it over to you, Inti.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, this is pretty much the same that Rex said, but more generally speaking. So first, like I think this is true for a lot of staff, not necessarily just tech support, but I feel like we've been running into the same issue where we don't really know who the stakeholders are in some stuff, in this case tech support. And so whenever we have to make a decision or just anything, we have to get we oftentimes have to get too many people involved, or we don't know who to ask, or what's the process and stuff. And so chatting with Gideon yesterday, I think that what's going to be really important is that we sort of outline some principles in guidelines, some general principles in guidelines. Say we just want to use open source stuff or whatever it is, and then give, in this case, Rex and I, who have been up to take the tech support responsibilities, say, just some agency to work within those principles and guidelines. That's the first thing. And so let me share my screen. Let's see. This is a document I started a few weeks ago now. I haven't done much, but I think I should probably just finish it. This goes through all the dependencies we use, say, One Hive technology like Celeste, Gardens, Gnosis chain, with also some recommendations. For example, a really big concern of mine is how the price of honey affects the security of Celeste, and they've been talking about changing parameters to sort of make it up for the price change, but they haven't really done anything, and the price of honey keeps dropping. It's below $20 right now, I think. But also with Gnosis chain and the issue of MakerDAO, the ABC, etc., and then the rest of things we have. And so probably what I'm thinking is to finish that inventory, make some sort of prioritization, and then try to just solve for whoever needs to be asked for certain things. Say, for example, we've recently had some spam in the server, and as far as I know, Rex, who's an admin on the server, hasn't dealt with that more than anything because do we have the agency of just go ahead and configure the bot to do that? That's kind of the thing. And that's simple with bots, but then with Gardens and Discord and Clarity, like we use a lot of stuff to move the TEC. And would be nice to have some clarity over how much agency do we have, how much room for operating do we have and stuff. Especially now that, with the transition, I believe there's some stuff that we are going to be dropping and some new stuff that we're going to need technology-wise. So, yeah, pretty quick update. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if anyone has any comments.
I just wanted to highlight one of the things that NT and I were talking about is just like, I don't think that, everybody needs to be pulled in on all technology decisions, right? Like this is kind of the core of what NT's saying. It's like, we'll just get stuck, we'll get stuck if we try to do that. But it does seem like there's some high level principles. This is what he was touching on in the beginning, like high level principles that we can probably agree on, like balancing open source with sustainability. Like for me personally, one of the things that I really believe has to be a very high priority is making sure that whatever technology we pick is not going to die on us, within the next year or so. Like, but other people may disagree with that, right? So I think having like a set of principles that we can just generally use for making decisions, I think will help us to save time and help us to make specific decisions, and be able to then hand that kind of decision-making power over to Rex and NT to kind of be our representatives in doing that. And then they can do advice process when it comes to specific things where needed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree on that. And just to add on that, I also think that this idea of roles can also be really beneficial for this, because once you have like a kind of like a more role description in place, you kind of create some responsibilities or some accountabilities or a certain domain for that person to be able to actually do whatever they think is the best, because it's like their workplace, their decisions, and if something is out of that place, then they can ask for advice, or they can go to the domain of the other person or the other role. So I think once roles, if we can get some roles in place, I think that could also help achieving this goal. And yeah, I totally agree on this idea of like setting some principles that can improve on this process.
Just like an actionable item, I guess what I'll do is complete the document and then start some this process on how do we deal with probably not I don't think specific tools, but like categories like community tools, governance tools, etc. And what's the way to move forward with those? Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions, thoughts?
I have one other question, which is, are there people on the call here today who have strong opinions about technology, principles, who feel like they would like to be able to do early passes on the document that NT and Rex are working on?
I mean, I'm always down to advise on this sort of thing. Just slide into my DMs when it's ready.
I also really appreciate NT's idea. There are certain components that are almost inextricable from the TEC, right? The augmented bond. Well, that's not inextricable. The augmented bonding curve, for example, that would be not be easy to swap out. Whereas DWork, okay, we could switch to another platform with no cost. So I like this idea of like the foundational technical components, and then the other things that are more changeable, and then breaking them down by purpose.
Anybody else? Okay. We're gonna go over to community calls, the review of the Figma board. I don't know, Gideon, I know you ran this. I don't know if you had any insights or updates on solid plans that we should move forward with. But I guess I could just give you the floor for a little quick update on this.
Sorry, Nate. So you're talking about the community call transformation process? Yeah. We didn't have. This is something that Bear and I were going to follow up on. We were meeting after this call. The biggest problem we had was that last week's community call, I think we had like 6 people on it. So you can kind of see that these calls are getting smaller and smaller over time, and it's they're getting less and less about bringing people in who aren't spending a bunch of time. You know, like it's less about newcomers. It's less about kind of the general community, and it's kind of more like us, right? So the point is, I don't know how representative these findings actually were, so I think that we probably need to do some more work on this, and if we want to get something that's more representative of the broader community. There were some actually, can you bring that back up, or I can jump to it too, but I mean, you can see a few patterns like up there in the upper left. That was, you know, there's like getting the vibe of the community that you know, like that resonated with a lot of people, like making sure, like trying to get that vibe back that we once had. Doing ecosystem updates, that was another one. There was you know, getting updates from here. I'm gonna just let me see if I can get it. Or actually, can you just zoom out a little bit, Nate? Thank you. Yeah, and then zoom in on that. Yeah, on that lower left quadrant. Shared by other people, like token engineering fundamentals. That was another one that seemed to resonate. Simple backgrounders, just like making it more accessible to people who may not be that deep into the field. And then can you scroll to the right? Thank you. Yeah, like changing up the praise practice a little bit. Seemed like there was a little bit of resonance for that. I won't go into the specific idea there, but I think that and then can you just go up a little bit? What's that one with the 4 stars? Yeah, how to get more involved in the community and ecosystem updates. These were kind of the main things. I think that the bigger takeaway is the thing I said at the beginning, which is like, I think this is just us talking to ourselves. So what we need to do probably is pull together some type of survey, and maybe just start to try to iterate on this, because you know, we've got some directional things right now. I think that the next step, and this is something that Bear is working on, and let's just, we don't have any good conclusions right now. So I think what we need to do is just pull together a few ideas, and then we'll come back with the next steps.
I feel like the polis that we did a while back had a lot of insights, and I don't know if we would need another survey. Like almost 80 people participated, and there's for sure insights we can bring on to the community call. And I think the more out facing we go, more will attract people that are not just us. So this seems like an obvious move.
I also believe, at least in the case of the community call, I sense that we are overcomplicating it. I think we should just say whoever is up to lead those community calls should just probably go to a few other communities, see what's up, and then just do the same. I think it's supposed to be something fun and not something we spend like weeks and a lot of research on. Because anyways, we can always just iterate over and over them. And yeah, like we have nearby examples with the academy and the intro to TE that they usually have quite some people and stuff. And there's probably 1,000 more examples on the Web3 space that we can just go ahead and do the same. So I don't think we shouldn't. I don't think we should spend too much efforts on the community call in that sense.
I agree with the sentiment of both. I think that the operations of the TEC may be interesting to us, but to most people they're quite boring and almost unimportant to the the whole notion of what our community is trying to achieve. And so we should sort of keep that in this group and give sparse updates to the community wherever necessary or on a semi-regular basis. And the community core should basically be trying to engage other communities, whether that be kind of doing some fun stuff with the TEA, doing some sort of cool, trying to bring the some guy from the tokenomics DAO, try to get him to talk and just give a short, I don't know, a short interview in the community call, just turn it into something that more people would actually want to tune into.
Yeah, I think these are all really good plans. I think we need to do a little bit more sense making and delving deeper. I think using the polls is really important. But with the last 7 minutes of this meeting, we're going to pass it over to Livia to talk about the TEC lessons retrospective announcement. So Livia, I kind of want to pass that to you and just kind of give everybody update on what the plans are and what we need to be doing or preparing for.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, I prepared this board. Hold on. This board with 7 topics. So, contributor management and duocracy, celebration culture, participatory decision-making, inclusion, boundaries, transparency, accountability, stewardship, and economic management. I think they encompass the cultural build and our experience in the working groups. So I didn't want to make separate working group by working group, so we don't put anyone in this pot. Is more like, what is the learning patterns emerging? So having a quadrant for what went well and one for what didn't go as expected. And I thought of 5 minutes for each one of those, which is 35 minutes of the call. Considering people arrive a little bit within the 5 minutes, we would have 20 minutes to give a round after this, which wouldn't be enough. But I think it's hard to find a commitment from so many people to more than an hour. So I think we'll get something meaningful to then process this and share the results in a more digested way. So yeah, I just wanted to hear if anyone has feedback on this. And the call is going to be on Friday at 6 p.m. Europe time. And that's it.
Yeah, so I guess my big thing is that, are you planning on doing a review of these things as well? Or do you think we could possibly, have the walkthrough on Friday, and if anybody who can't make it can actually contribute towards this board, and maybe we review it sometime next week together?
Yeah, I shared with everyone. I'm trying to herd people and put names in the calendar, and hoping that people can come to this session. And then if somebody can't join, I offer to do alternative times as well, and also people can just jump in and put their thoughts there.
Yeah, it sounds really great. Thank you for putting that together. And does anybody have any questions or requests?
No, I think it looks really good. I'll be tuning in, even though I haven't joined the stewards. I'm very interested in this stuff, so I'll be joining the call for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not only for stewards, it's like stewards and working group learning. So anyone who participated in any working group that has any feedback to share is super welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Olivia. That's really awesome. And I guess I just wanted to make sure that, as we continue this transition process and we start to, get involved with these new patterns, new kind of modes that we're entering into. Provide feedback. Like if something's not working or you don't think something's working, let's discuss it. Let's try to create solutions for it. I think that as we're moving forward, it's kind of trial and error. And so, if something's clearly not working, let's acknowledge it. And yeah, if you have ideas, share them. I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody that we should be more communicative about these things during the transition process as we can be. So yeah, with that being said, I will, if anybody else has any thoughts or questions, this is the time to do so. If not, then we will retire this call and we will meet again on Thursday.
Thanks for hosting.
Just to mention, I will be bringing something regarding Dune on Thursday because the clock it's a ticking clock that in which essentially Dune is going to stop updating financial dashboards and so on. So we need to upgrade them. So I will be bringing forth some more information on that next call. Just to say that.
Looking forward to that. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nate, for hosting.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. See you on Thursday.
Happy birthday, Auntie.
Happy birthday, Auntie.
Thank you. Happy birthday.